What is going on, guys? We have Corey's FRS in here. We have Corey right there. eBay wide body kit, XXR wheels. So you know what that means? That means we're gonna put the Ferrari Maserati engine, F136 with the T56 in there and build some mounts. So let's get to it. So just to recap, if you saw any of the previous videos, this is a Ferrari F136. It is out of a Maserati sedan. I don't know. We got that adapter plate by AL Hot Rods, some hot rod shop. T56 transmission, like standard LS LT1 transmission. It's actually out of an early Camaro, so it's an LT1 trans. You know when you go down? You can bring it down. And we're dropping it in. And then we're gonna see how she fits. We're gonna have like 50 clearance issues right off the bat. Now we have the sway bar dropped out of the car completely, and then we have the front subframe lowered down on the bolts about as far as it can go. So that gives us an extra inch of clearance. If you look down here, we have a little bit of clearance to go back. Up top, we have basically no clearance on this. I'm thinking we're gonna have to get rid of this reservoir and run a remote reservoir, and if we're lucky, we'll be able to run the factory master. Who knows? We'll see. Well, attempt number 2 of getting the engine in, and we got the engine in.
Shit, but it's there.
It's there.
And it's really stupid.
It fits pretty well. Currently, our clearance issues are, there's some tabs on the bottom of the oil pan. I'll show you in a second. Front subframe is dropped about an inch, and we have less than a half inch of clearance from the engine to the cross member, which means the engine and the cross member need to come up about an inch. In here, the shifter fits in there. It's a little far forward, but that's not the worst thing in the world. That's kind of okay. We can live with that if that's where it's gonna land, because we do have a bunch of other clearance issues back here. So basically this is as far back as we can get the motor and trans set up, but now we just need to work on getting them up. We're gonna cut the stuff on the bottom of the engine, some little brackets that aren't needed, drop it back in again, I guess.
So how mad do you think if I post this on the Ferrari Enthusiast and Owners Worldwide page?
Now we're dropping it in for the 3rd time. This bracket I cut off while it was in the car because that was a clearance issue. Then under here, Corey trimmed that one, trimmed that one, got rid of this, which is unbolted. Now we're gonna see, and we also have the steering rack lightly bolted up, just sitting in place. Hopefully that's not gonna be a clearance issue on the install, but if it is, whatever. Unbolt that again. Let's see how she fits. Oh, and we also pulled the bracket off of there, which had the line, basically secured the hard line to the soft line, throwing in. So now we're working on the driver's side, and we have this, basically the dry sump oil pump. That right there is the dry sump oil pump. You can see I already got the front part of the mount already made, but the rear part of the mount, there is a bunch more stuff right there. There's like a bolt, the oil filter housing, and some other stuff. This is, kind of looks like a little bean. So this little bean right here is gonna be the rear part of the motor mount. So we're gonna bolt it in place and then drop some tack welds on it, and then the motor will be officially mounted somewhat. And then what we're gonna do is pull these out, weld them all up nicely, TIG weld, and add some more gusseting and stuff. This one is a little thin for my liking, but not much we can really do with what's there. But the front piece has a whole lot of meat on it, so that's good. So right there, the front one has a whole lot of meat on it. I do need to shave a little bit, give it more clearance there around the oil pump. That should make up for the lack of metal on this one, hopefully. Again, this engine doesn't make a whole lot of power. It's not like it's gonna be ripping motor mounts out or anything. It's only gonna be about 400 wheel, we're guessing. Maybe a little bit over that. It should be all right. But then we're gonna work on the transmission mounts. Now we got a package here today, and already test fitted them because we are way too anxious to get everything done, and we have no self-control. Check it out. Boom. This is a set of Ferrari California headers. Found them on eBay for about 360 bucks. I have them mounted backwards, left and right. That's why it goes forward, because we had a little clearance issue on the motor mount because I didn't have these beforehand. These will work for us. I think we got clearance all. Yeah, we got plenty of clearance on the backside. So what we're gonna do is come off of there, do a little whoop, boom, over the subframe there, and then back. It's gonna be a 2.5 inch, mostly straight pipe, just a little simple muffler, along with a little X pipe just to make it quieter. Same with this side. Originally we thought we were gonna have clearance on the, or clearance issue on this little thermostat housing or whatever it is. All good. we're all clear, so that'll work. So kept it pretty simple, drilled a couple holes just to make them look all fancy. This one right here weighs like 2 pounds, so not too bad, but definitely really solid. The bottom, like that face, is 3/16, the rest of it's all 1/8 inch steel. TIG welded inside and out, and then on the outside I ground it down just to give it the cool, you know, almost factory-ish look. You can see a lot better of the weird ass mount we had to make for this side. It's got all the little notches and everything to fit around the oil pump, which is right there, and it works. It's probably pretty solid, and it'll do the job. Then transmission mount, this one's really simple. Just a piece of 3/16 flat, slotted holes on both sides. This piece was CNC cut, and then there's one center hole for the transmission mount, and it allows it to slide forward and backward. And then just a little bit of 1/8 inch vertical bracing on the front and the rear. Generally pretty simple. So off of this, I ordered a custom stainless flange, and we're just going to loop it around and then up and over. Basically, we're gonna come up and over. I don't know if we're going there or there on this side. There, we got plenty of room over here. Should go pretty easily once we do the exhaust. And also up in there, you can see the transmission mounts. Those bolt through the trans tunnel on each side, and on the inside of the car, there is a little plate that just sort of reinforces it so the bolts don't rip through. Now we got the motor bolted up in its final resting place. Plenty of room for the header to do a little loop.
Resting place?
Yes.
You just said that like it was just going there to die. So that's the news we have to break to them. It's not gonna work. We have to scrap it.
It just needs scrapped, all of it.
Yeah.
But we got good clearance on everything. Do we even have? We have clearance on the heater hoses. We can put heat in this bitch.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna put this Ferrari intake manifold on there.
Oh, that's what I meant by scrapping it. We gotta scrap this.
Yeah.
Yeah, not all of
Scrap the stupid thing and put on the cool thing. I don't know if you guys can tell, but this intake manifold is way bigger than this intake manifold, and this intake manifold is already very out the hood.
If anybody wants to ask how much this is costing, just don't worry about it.
This is a lot of money. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Good job, Corey.
I could have probably just bought a Ferrari.
Almost.
When you're too poor to afford a Ferrari, but you want a Ferrari swap your car, and then you end up putting the amount of money that you could have just bought a Ferrari with.
We have way more firewall clearance, and it looks fucking sick.
It's so angry.
It
looks a little lower, actually, than the Maserati.
It might be... No, I don't think it is any lower.
I don't know.
It's not much higher, but it does stick out way further forward, which puts it way more out of the hood. Because, yo, if you come look at it from the side, it's like...
Dude, come look at it from the front. It kind of looks like Wally.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like Wally.
Yo, I love this. Corey, how much do you love this?
Yeah.
This is fucking sick.
This is stupid.
God, we are dumb. All right, so I got that welded up and ground down and threw a little bit of this shitty red paint on it, very poorly, but that gives you an idea of what we're working with. Also, I got one of the throttle bodies in, so boom, that'll be just like that. And this is a throttle body, and the throttle body spacer is actually from the Maserati. It's the same as the Ferrari one. They both use the same part numbers and everything. Just need to get another one for that side. Got R8 coil packs coming in. Just bought this one to test. It fits perfect. These coil packs are a lot stronger, higher spark output than the Maserati ones, and they're much more available. Hopefully I can just repin this connector. But if not, I'll just cut the pins off and pin it for the R8 one. Started doing a little bit of the wiring, but that's a long road ahead of me. All right, so as you can see, we got coil packs in. These are from an Audi R8. They're a really common upgrade for a lot of cars. Pretty well. They seal up the hole. They don't go all the way down. They look good, and they're really reliable and easy to get coil packs. I started on the wiring. I have everything labeled. I did this off camera because this is incredibly boring to watch, even more boring to do. We have one of the throttle bodies because I don't know how to read an eBay ad, so I only bought one. So I need to buy another one, no big deal. This is the intake air temperature sensor, which is going to the Mega Squirt. This is a standard GM style, like, you know, everybody runs on their Turbo Miatas and all the other. Same with the coolant temperature sensor there. I had to drill and tap this a little bit bigger, and GM coolant temperature sensor wired in to its labeled wire, wherever that is. Right here is, I used a douche connector, or douche connector as we call them, to wire the factory FRS alternator wires to the Ferrari alternator wires. All you have to do is see which one's the S and the L and the IG, whatever that means. Don't know, don't care. Just connecting those. Up in here, we got the drive-by-wire controller. Got the Megasquirt MS3 Pro mounted. Got one of the AEM inline widebands. So this basically has this little box there. As a wideband controller, there's no gauge, so it'll just wire directly into the ECU. Oh, then we got the ISR short shifter, hiding in a giant pile of wires. Or not really short shifter, but shifter relocation, because the shifter sits too far forward, so we just have to push it back. I think it's like 4 inches. So, not bad. Got fuel injector bungs. These are actually standard LS style, and they are from ICT Billet. And these fit the injectors that came with the motor. So I got to drill and weld these into the Ferrari intake manifold. Rear battery that we did in the last video. Corey put the Deechworks fuel pump in. Got some OEM Ferrari gaskets, which we have an account at Ferrari now, which is cool. And the guys at Ferrari are cool as fuck. And, oh, and Corey got some new wheels. Cosmos XT006s. They're pretty beefy. He has this adapter spacer, boom, and he's putting on a thinner one just to help get clearance and reduce the scrub radius and all that stuff. So yeah, it's coming along. So I got the plugs from Wiring Specialties. They fit perfect. So what I'm going to do is de-pin this connector. The reason for doing that is just so I can maximize the length of wire that I get out of this end. And then from there, we're going to cut it close to the terminal, as close as we can. Then we're going to strip it. We're going to go, well, that's the de-pinning tool. We're going to strip it. We're going to crimp on some of the crimp connectors, those guys right there, using this tool. We're going to leave this boot just because this boot has this nice 90, and the ones they gave us do not have a 90. They're just straight. So these are going to be a little bit tight on the bigger connector, but that should be fine. And then we're just going to plug them in. All right, and just to give you an example, I have every level of wiring here. So this is straight, freshly cut. Then we have stripped. You strip them back just a little bit. Then we're going to crimp the pins on. And basically these pins always match to their respective connectors. Some of them are the same if the connector type is the same. And here we have a fully finished connector plugged in with the boot on it. You can see the boot fits, but it's a little bit tight. Hopefully it seals up well. I'm probably also going to pack a bunch of dielectric grease in the back side of there just to make sure it's waterproof, you know. And same with around this boot, just to make sure everything's good. We'll finish these and then move on. Now got all the coil packs wired up, all 8, these 4 and those 4. Corey blasted some beautiful sparkly paint on the intake manifold, and now I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting the front bumper just to be able to get this on there and see where we could put the air filters. So I got the bumper cut here. I also cut these down a little bit just to make them look slimmer. They look better this way. Cut these down about another 1/4 inch. So this is where they'll sit. Did a little bit of trimming on the front core support, which is pretty mangled up now. These previous cuts were from when this car was turbo FA20. But yeah, need to do a little bit more trimming around this one and this one. And I got the 130-degree bend or something like that, 130, 135. Got that welded on, and these little K&N air filters thrown on there. They're not perfectly even, but I can even them out later, just like that. So this looks pretty fucking sick, so definitely liking that. That's awesome. Also working on the wiring, got it almost all done. Corey made this trim panel right here to cover up all that junk. The oil dry sump tank is finished, all welded up and everything. All the wiring is done. We actually had to add this resistor afterwards. It's a 10K ohm resistor between the 2 wires that go to the VR crank angle sensor, so had to add that. Ran all finish line factory oil hoses, oil line, including this one going to the oil catch can, which is way too small for the dry sump system, but it does the job for now. And then we got it wrapped by Ben at Black Star Design. Super happy with it. It's a color shift. My 370Z is actually matching this with the graphics and the wrap color. Corey got this painted sparkly, which is important. Got some of the exhaust made. It goes back into an X pipe that's like probably right about there. So a lot of exhaust work still needs to be done. It's kind of loud right now. We got the air filters up there. Right behind it we have an Earl's -16AN oil cooler because we needed big oil flow for the dry sump system. So that's all good, all working. Let's see, up in here we have the so the glove box door goes on like however it goes on. Clips in the factory clips and actually shuts like normal, so you can't even tell. And then we got to work on cleaning this up, but we have the MS3 Pro, we have the DBW X2. This is the factory ECU, and then just a couple relays and whatnot for all the factory functions. So basically, we got everything done. Not everything, but it is running and driving. So I'll start it up for you. So it's a little bit dark in here, but we have the Peterson dry sump oil tank. This actually came out of some sort of Roush car at some point, according to the guys at Peterson. We got 2-16 fittings up top. We're only going to be using one of them, and we have 1-16 fitting at the bottom. We also have a bunch of fittings around the bottom edge, which I have no idea what they're for. So those are all going to get plugged. This right here, these two bands are actually oil heaters, so that'll keep the oil up to temperature when it's cold out or before the engine starts running, and that just helps deaerate the system. And this weld bung is going to get welded right there at a tube, or actually probably on the back side, and that's going to be the oil vent can, the oil catch can vent, because as the oil gets hot it's going to build up pressure, and that pressure needs to go somewhere, so it goes to a catch can. So what we have here, we got a 90, a straight fitting. Both of those ran off the oil tank, and then we got a fitting right here going to a Vibrant ball valve, -16 ball valve. So this is actually going to prevent oil from siphoning out of the tank, which is there, and filling up the motor, because one of the issues we had is the dry sump oil tank, the whole oil level got dropped into the motor and actually caused the motor to hydro lock with oil. So that was a pain in the ass. We got this so we could just shut the oil flow off when the car's not running. And I'm going to put some sort of sensor on here to make sure it is open before the car starts running. Otherwise, you will starve it of oil. Then the other line right now is running up here. No fitting on this end as of yet. Boom. But that's going to get bulkheaded to under where the old oil tank is. And then this one, we're not exactly sure yet, but I think I'm just going to go through the floor with no bulkhead straight into the oil pump, which is down over there. All right, so this is the oil tank. So the oil tank, you cannot see in there, but we have a few baffle plates. We also have a tube coming in, doing a little spiral, letting it drop down onto the baffle plate, and then a little breather. And then this is pretty much straight through, and then this was going down at the feed. And this was the drain, which we never really finished, but it was going to have a little hose going down to drain. And we'll be doing a similar drain setup on the new dry sump tank. We also had this little pin that I made that was pretty cool. That pin sat right in there. It held everything in place nicely. What I've done so far is drill a hole right there for the bulkhead. This is the original line that was running to the top of the can, and it is going to be running through the bulkhead down into the car and then to the top of the tank. And then the bottom of the tank is going to go underneath down to the line that Corey is currently removing, which is the other end of this line.
It sucks.
And it sucks. It's super tight under there. There's the oil filter, there's the adapter plate like right behind the oil filter. Somewhere in relation to there, there's the hose and fitting, which is AN, which is always a bitch to do. and there's an exhaust and all kinds of other stuff. So it sucks. Now I got this fitting right here, bulkheaded. I should have used a 90, but we are out of 90s, so we may change that later on. But for now, it's not too bad. The line kind of comes a little high and then swoops down. It would be nice if we could just tuck it, you know, real low the whole way, and then it just go in, but it's whatever. Also, hood's very floppy. We should do something about that, but I don't know what we can do about that. I'm going to be working on some of the fittings inside the car, so I cut this one down a little bit, and it's just gonna get 45'd into this side of the bulkhead. The other fitting is going to the floor, like I was saying. But first, I want to work on getting the dry sump tank mounted, just so all the lines can be correctly sized. So there was this bolt hole right here, which is a factory bolt hole for something. Got that bolted up. Built this little bracket right here out of stainless steel, just some scraps that I had, and it's pretty solid. So what we're going to do is measure from there to there, and then measure from there to there. Drill a hole right here, and this will be a nut and bolt. And then we're going to build a similar bracket to this one down here, possibly off of this bolt hole or something else. I don't know, we'll figure it out once we get there. All right, so now I got this thing fully mounted, and it is solid. Like, doesn't even move, which is good because it will hold about 25 pounds of oil, I'm gonna guess. So you don't want that to be moving. Just had this made this final bracket back here, which you can barely see. Let's see if I can squeeze my finger in there. So, see my finger right there? So, bolted to there. I'm gonna do some cleanup on it, obviously. And then bolted down here to the factory rear seatbelt lower bolt. And I think that'll be plenty. Got all 4 bolts. So now I can bolt up the lines for almost the final time. We're probably gonna have to pull this out just to, I need to weld the vent on this. I just wasn't sure where to put it because I just wanted to be at the rearmost position. But now that it's mounted, I can throw the lines on and we can size the lines accordingly, and then we can kind of see what goes where. Let's tighten these lines up and then get them work, and then get to that. Now with the tank firmly mounted, got the lines hooked up to the tank, just hand tight for now. So we got one divider that we also got from Finish Line Factory right there. Swing around. Got another, I don't know exactly what they're called, little dual hose clamps. Then we got our vibrant ball valve, which is going to be mounted up right here. So it's in a good position for the driver to reach. It's also in a good position for the passenger to not fuck with. That's closed, that's open, so this is how it's going to be while driving. So that should be safe. So what I did, I pulled this back real quick. There was a hole right there for the AC drain, but since we're not running AC, we don't need the drain. Pulled the AC hose out, drilled the hole a little bit bigger. I need to make, sorry camera grumpy, I need to make it a little bit bigger than that, just so the fitting can come out. By the way, we'll just plug them again right there. Boom, Finish Line Factory. They actually didn't sponsor this, but they've hooked it up before, so I'm hooking them up. So I just want to make sure the fitting can get out, just so this will be serviceable. And then there was a piece of styrofoam over there, so I just took a big cut out of it with my knife, and that should be fine. We might add some sort of little shield so passengers don't kick it, but for now we can just tuck that out of the way, and then this sort of tucks way over there, and even if it gets kicked a little bit, it still survives pretty well. So what I'm going to do is pull the line out, cut it on my mark, and then drill that hole out a little bit bigger and put some sort of sleeving along with some fire shield on this, just so it doesn't get hot around the exhaust. So let's get ahead and do that. Now I got both lines totally finished up. I'll show you what I did to the bottom of this. It's got a nice grommet going through the firewall and some heat shielding underneath. So that's all nice. This line goes up here to a 45. I might have been able to use a 90, but 45 is all I had. Again, still. So I probably should have ordered more 90s is the moral of the story. Got a bracket here, and it's sort of pretty well fixed. This is a good spot. Corey has a cool idea for a cover, but I'm not going to spill the beans in case it doesn't happen. It'll look pretty sick if it does. I also might add a little dead pedal safety box over this, just so these don't get kicked too much, because we don't want that, especially if, you know, you put a ton of pressure on that one right there. it might cause problems. I'm going to leave all this for Corey to tighten. If he wants to pressure test it out of the car, he is more than welcome to. But for now, it's pretty spicy. It's also going to get a little bit warm, so some heat shielding on this might be nice. But for now, at least we'll have oil and we can tune and do whatever else we need. So now we're going to take this bung and put it on the dry sump tank. So up here I'm still using the same flange that we used to adapt the factory oil pump down to a dash 16 fitting. Put the Finish Line factory heat shield over all of this to a grommet right here. Same kind of grommet we're running up top for the electrical connectors. Just decided to...
How heat shielded is it?
No, not that good. I mean, it'll work for a second, but that is all for the oil lines. We just need to tighten everything up, and we can tighten the steering rack back in place, and then we have a good, reliable oil system, in theory.
If there's ever a fire, you could use this to slide over something to make sure it's protected, and you know what I'm talking about.
Okay, Corey, gotta make sure your dick stays safe. It's not on TikTok, so I can say that.
Really?
Well, yeah, this is YouTube. I can...
Oh, yo, it's a cock sleeve.
Yeah. On TikTok, I keep getting banned off of live because I make OnlyFans jokes and stuff. So, shouts out YouTube for having some freedom, I guess. So next up, we are going to be throwing the rest of the exhaust on here. Corey he was talking about twin turboing it, but I don't think we're going to do that because that's a whole... Yeah, that's a whole big headache that we don't need to deal with yet.
Later.
So we're going to go from here to some vibrant resonators. Go back, but once we get about right here, we're gonna have possibly 2 more vibrant resonators, but we're gonna start it and see how it sounds first, and we may just go out the back straight piped. So stay tuned and we'll see what we do with that. So I got the drain line installed. We drilled a hole right there, and it has a dash 12 bung with a plug on the end. Still waiting on the plug, actually. So I welded dash 12 fitting right there with a little hose, or a little metal pipe that goes in towards the center. And this is the vent tube, which is going down into the trunk. That'll be going to a vibrant catch can, which will then be vented out to the bottom of the trunk. This line installed, that line installed. Need to tighten that fitting and a couple other fittings. And for the most part, everything is done. So, more work coming on this, more work coming on the 350Z. I just said 350. Everybody's been calling it a 350. It's a 370, and now I am saying 350. Fucking hate it here. Stay tuned, and let's party.